Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. I've already welcomed my friends and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Now, from now until we actually, all of you, get to see Joker movie, the build-up to that movie will be so thorough here on Big Mouth. We're going to be talking a lot about Joker movie. There's going to be a lot of coverage because I'm so excited for you guys to see it and to have the experience that I did. Because finishing seeing that film, I didn't forget the film. It left me shivering inside. It was just such an amazing experience. And this video is called Why Young Rippa is Wrong About Joker Movie. Now, Young Rippa is a YouTuber who knows a lot about comics. Now, from what I've gathered, he knows more about Marvel than he does about DC. I like him. I have no issue with him. He's been very successful talking about the culture war and what's going on in Hollywood right now. Some of the stuff I agree with, some of the stuff I don't. But when you start talking about DC movies, then I have to react to that. And this is what he's got to say.
Actually in stream, as well as videos, talking about definitely recent Hollywood. And it's not just with Hollywood. It's actually with like future or current comic book writers when it comes to mainstream characters and mainstream comics. Let's get right into it. Yeah, here we go. I meant to talk about this earlier when it came out, but I never got around to it, and I just thought about it. Die-hard Joker fans might not love the latest take on the supervillain. Director Todd Phillips revealed in a new interview he didn't base the character on material from previous comics for his upcoming film, Joker. Instead, Joaquin Phoenix's villain origin story will unravel from different circumstances. He then says, "We didn't follow anything from the comic books, which people are going to be mad about." Phillips told Empire, according to Vulture, "We just wrote our own version of where a guy like Joker might come from. That's what was interesting to me. We're not even doing Joker, but the story of becoming Joker. It's about this man." Now, he also says here it feels unique. It is its own world in some ways, and maybe mostly it scares the shit out of him, or the fuck out of him, or the fucking shit out of him. Whatever, I don't know. He also said, where am I at? It's a magnified version of what you deal with as an actor, yada, yada, yada. And then he says they have their expectation, and they've imagined things in their head, and they've imagined different actors, and suddenly you take it on, and so there's this moment of anxiety of, did I just live up to their expectations, yada, yada, yada. He's not saying anything, but I want to give my thoughts, because doesn't this highlight something that I've talked about multiple times, like I said at the beginning of the video, that we live in an era where directors, writers, producers, they've gotten to the point to where everything is about them and their own personal ego when it comes to comic book writers, or when it comes to like film adaptation, and even comic book, like current comic book lines, where people are taking characters that they did not create at all and are saying, fuck the source material, we're going to do our own thing. And what that is basically saying is that...
Right, first of all, how many direct adaptations do you know? Not in animation, but in live action film. Name me one direct adaptation. Now, we know Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice has elements of The Dark Knight Returns, but it's not a faithful adaptation. There's bits and pieces in there which excited the fans, of course. Some fans, as we know, it is a very divisive film, that I like very much. But not one MCU film, not one DC film has ever been a direct adaptation. Now, it's been pretty clear from Todd Phillips and Walter Hamada and Peter Safran that the DC Black Label is something new, something original. It's their own takes on certain characters, a darker take, an R-rated take. And even though Todd Phillips has said he didn't take anything from the comics, that actually isn't true, because there are graphic novels where the Joker starts off as a comedian and a family man. Now, he's not a family man in this. He's looking after his disabled mother, right? But the comedian stuff and all that has been referenced in the comics already. So, in fact, it's not a direct adaptation, but it was never going to be a direct adaptation. And he's a die-hard comic man, right? And he feels comic book writers are being disrespected. I would say that the MCU have disrespected comic book writers from Marvel for a very long time now. Where are the direct adaptations? In fact, nobody making comic. You have got 200, 300 million kind of budget, right? And not one of them has done a direct adaptation. Why not? The excuse is you can't do it. A comic book has, word bubbles. It can't work. Of course it can work. Now, whatever you say about Ang Lee's Incredible Hulk, he did try. He did try that, didn't he? Now, it didn't work, but at least the guy showed some respect to the format of comic books. I would absolutely welcome direct adaptations from comics, but that's not what the DC Black Label is, and it's not what it should be. Direct adaptations should be in the DCEU and the MCU, and they're simply not doing it. They're all adapting their own stuff, right? And I get it. He's butthurt because he's a big comic book guy and he thinks there should be more direct adaptations. But I don't think attacking Joker movie is fair, because Todd Phillips had the idea to do a Black Label of movies. This time it's the Joker. I'm predicting next time it will be Lex Luthor, which will be awesome. But there's nothing wrong with original takes. Jesus Christ, Stephen Moffat's Sherlock Holmes, which isn't a comic book, but is a bunch of novels, right? I mean, that's set in the modern era, right? I know he kind of adapts a couple of the stories. I get that, right? But the point is, the Black Label, was never meant to be direct adaptations. We're talking about originality. But there should be a mixture here, and I'm hoping within the future the DCEU will try and adapt some stories. New Gods could be a faithful adaptation. Let's see. Some people are saying New Gods is not even happening. I haven't heard anything from my sources about that. But let's see what else young Ripper has to say.
It's not about the character that, again, you didn't create. It's about, again, having a blank canvas, right? And using it to sort of prop up your own ideal and prop up your own vision, right? It's not about actually showing some sort of respect to the source material. Again, this is something that you did not create. This is where we're at with it. Hold on just a second. I'm sorry. I had my channel intro just popping up there. But it's arrogance. It's almost narcissism in a sense. But that's what we're dealing with. And this is why I'm saying you got to kind of pay attention to what's taking place, and why you're getting directors, you're getting writers, you're getting producers that aren't even emotionally attached to these characters or anything like that. So what is it to them to fuck them up or have them do some sort of weird adaptation? Now, I've never suggested this. I've never suggested that, okay, you're going to do a film adaptation, let's say, TV or film adaptation, you need to follow exactly the source material. I've never stated that. I have said you got to respect it, because, again, that's where it's coming from. That's where the base of your idea is coming from.
The base of this idea isn't about the Joker you're reading in your comics. This is an Elseworld story. This isn't even they're not even saying this is the official Joker from Earth 1. They're saying this is one of the Jokers from one of the universes, and we're going to give the guy, an origin story. This is Arthur Fleck. You've never heard of him in the comics before, but we're doing this Elseworld character, so we're not arrogant. It's not arrogant because they're not saying this is the Joker from Earth 1. And, once we start quashing it on originality, right, all they're doing is they're taking the craze with comic book superhero movies and doing something original. And as I say, he hasn't seen the film. I have. And I will tell you this. This movie honours the Joker. honours the history, honours what exactly the Joker is, but also has some fabulous commentary on male mental health. Now, people like him keep on complaining because they keep on making money from their culture war videos, talking about how men are being treated in Hollywood, how white men are being swapped around for people of colour. Now, elements of that conversation I absolutely agree with. I do, right? But there has to be balance here. And this film is an amazing film. And I wouldn't swap this film for a film that does a direct adaptation. No, because that's the DCEU's responsibility. Because Jared Leto is clearly not going to be the Joker anymore, right? They need to find someone who could be an awesome Joker in the DCEU, and maybe they can adapt the story for him, right? Maybe they can do a Harley and a Joker. Maybe, I don't know. The Joker's an awesome character. And this is the point of DC. It has so many versions of so many different characters. And I think this is what they're trying to create now. Walter Hamada over at New Line Cinema. Variable versions of different characters. And for me, that's very exciting.
Just wanted to do some crazy fucking character that looked like a clown. Call them somewhere else. It's basically clown characters. It and all kinds of random shit that's out there. Why don't you go make your own fucking character that goes crazy or whatever? Why call him the Joker? What is the fucking point of making a film based off a DC character named the Joker, right? Calling it Joker, right? And then completely saying, you know what? Yeah, fuck the source material. This is just, we want to just, we have a loose idea, and then we're going to just do our own thing because, again, it's about you as the writer and the director. Even acknowledging sort of that a lot of people aren't going to be happy about that. A lot of people are going to be upset with it. It's about you and your ego. And that's the problem that I have. A lot of writers, not just with TV and film, but even current comic lines, where we're getting characters that act nothing like what they've historically acted like. And there's also these sort of narratives in which people are trying to force their own social ideology into the books, right? Into the characters, sort of inject them into the characters and into their storyline, even if it doesn't make sense.
See, he's trying to bring his culture war kind of chat into this, which has nothing to do with this film. The culture war has nothing to do with this film. This film hasn't been SJW'd up or anything. This film is a fabulous fucking movie. We are hungry for real films, so don't stamp over it when people try and do something. Why is it the Joker? Why don't they just do a random movie? Well, young Ripper, they're going to make a lot of money because this film's called The Joker. It's called business, mate. That's the way it works. And, they could call this film another name, but it is a version of The Joker. And it honours the Joker. By the end of this film, you feel that. He is the Joker. But it's the journey. It's a compelling journey. This is the most believable version, right? Because you actually see what this poor fucking bloke goes through. And it actually it's commentary on what so many men are going through with depression, suicidal thoughts. This fucking guy is literally alone, helping his mother. He's beaten and battered. He's kind of, at first, even though things are tough, he's trying his best. And society breaks down this man, like society breaks down many men and many women. You may not like the fact that there's some true life commentary in this, but this is a worthwhile movie. It mixes something real, raw and gritty, and actually gives you the character. I believe by the end of this film, that's the Joker, more than Nicholson's, more than Ledger's. Ledger was great, but I didn't see his journey. Then there's the argument that the Joker shouldn't have an origin. Well, luckily, this is an Elseworld Joker, and this isn't the Joker. So that shouldn't really matter. That shouldn't be part of the discussion.
In the context of what this character has historically been. Again, it's still making it about them. And I've said this time and time and time again. When you do something like that, that does not make you a talented writer. That does not make you a talented director. That does not make you a talented anybody that has any sort of creative control here. It does not make you talented.
Todd Phillips isn't a talented writer-director. this is where you go off on a tangent. Now, you're a mouthpiece. You're very successful at what you do, and congratulations. You're very popular. You're 20 billion times more popular than I am, more than I ever be. But I can only talk about how I feel. I've been watching films since I was a very small boy, right? And I'm hungry for a real film that means something. This film's going to mean something to a new generation of comic book fans. People are going to start picking up more DC Batman stories and Joker stories because of this film and because of this backstory, because it damn well works and originality matters. As I say, it's a balance. I want to see adaptations, I do, but this isn't. This film never promised to be an adaptation. So as I say, this attack is ungrounded. But of course, we all have different points of view. And from Young Ripper's point of view, it's a very valid statement. For me, it's very unvalid.
Talented in that sense. Certainly when it comes to the writers, a talented writer is able to take something that existed before him when it comes to these comic book characters. Doesn't matter, a TV film adaptation or future comic line, they're able to take that character, pay respects, and write something that is still fresh, is still new, exhilarating. But it doesn't deviate so far from the confines that they should operate within when there's, again, history.
No creativity should have confines. This is the direct problem with consumers these days who are swallowing up these films and these TV shows. They think there's a remit. They think there's a remit you shouldn't jump into. Fuck you. If I'm writing something, right, whether I'm taking a character someone else has created or my own characters, I want a blank canvas. I have to have a blank canvas. You can't just squeeze me in. Smallville was a great example. It was the story of the story. That's what the Joker movie is, the story of the story. And it's a beautiful story. And by the time he becomes the Joker, he absolutely is a great freaking version of the Joker. And this is something else I'm pissed off of with this generation. Reacting to shit before you've seen it. I've seen it, and that's how I can judge it. I've told you before, this is a game changer. This is an industry changer. As I said on this morning's DCEU Daily, if you haven't seen it, check it out, because this is Big Mouth, and my Big Mouth's going to run, because Young Ripper is making a lot of money from his videos. He's got a lot of followers and subscribers, and he has to keep on spilling the mantra, because basically, once you sing a song, and even if you sing it badly, if it's making you money and making you popular, you've got to keep on doing it. As I say, I've learned a lot from Young Ripper about Marvel Comics. Very, very educational, right? It's like Comics, the guy from Comics Explained. He does a lot on DC. He has taught me so much through his videos. These guys are brilliant. But on this one subject, I have to bring Young Ripper to task. I do. Because it's not a valid argument. Because nobody told him. And there shouldn't be a remit where you're squeezed in a gap and you can't work properly. Something beautiful and original has happened here. And if you watch it and you're not happy, fine. But don't judge it just so you can get a few views, right? And a few likes before you've seen it.
Of legacy between the characters. Not to say the characters can't grow, have slight changes or anything like that. But if you do a Batman comic or you do a Batman live action adaptation, then you can make it feel like Batman, even telling some new shit, right? Even telling a new, fresh story. But that's not what's happening these days. Everybody thinks it's about them. Certainly when they can show off and get praise on Twitter now, we have more connectivity to writers, directors, actors, and so forth now more than we've ever had in human history. And it seems like it's about...
Let me give you a prime example, right, of a film that's barely an adaptation of anything. And they're quite faithful with the origin story. I'm talking Superman the movie, right? Do you remember the green power source that builds the Fortress of Solitude, right? Green. Green stands for kryptonite, right? Kryptonite's green. That's been famous for even, when we had Superman the movie. They got that element wrong. That power source shouldn't have been green. In fact, it was a ridiculous mistake. Now, I love Superman the movie and what Dick Donner did. I do. Without that film, I wouldn't be talking about what I'm talking about now, and I certainly wouldn't be wearing this crest, this insignia, proudly on my chest. No question. There has never ever been that much loyalty into comic book adaptations or movie adaptations. That's the truth here. But he's decided to talk about a movie, right? He doesn't even know what this Joker's going to be like. He hasn't seen it. I'm not going to tell you. I'm giving you hints that you'll be very happy. A Joker movie is something Joker and Batman fans have been waiting for all their freaking lives. This is an amazing moment. Every MCU film, every DCEU film has built up to this amazing moment, this amazing film that will win the Venice Film Festival, that will at least be nominated for Joaquin Phoenix's amazing performance and Todd Phillips' beautiful writing and directing. But as I say, young Ripper, you can't tear something to pieces until you've seen it. Now, your point is it's an origin story. Oh, Todd Phillips has said it's nothing like the comics. Well, because there isn't an origin story. But there have been elements of an origin story in the comics. And as we know, as I said on the top of the show, the Joker has been a comedian. So we know that. We know elements of his origin. Not all of them, right? We don't know his name and stuff like that. But the point is, this film never promised anything.
Massaging these guys' egos. It's not about actually respecting the source material. And these fools wonder why they get such pushback from fans and stuff like that. It's because you do shit like this. Now, I don't know how this movie's going to turn out. It may turn out okay. It may be digestible and so forth. But I do think it's disrespectful for them to be like, you know what? We're going to tell you straight up, we ain't even fucking with the comic, yo. We don't give a goddamn about that. That's BS, man. And I honestly hope that attitude starts to change, because again, what we're seeing, unfortunately, is that people that again funded this, people that again people that buy comics, right, made this shit come to life essentially by supporting this, getting behind it. Of course, they're gonna have this expectation, and then you shit on them by saying, you know what, fuck the source material, man, and that's just not right. That's just not right. I don't care what anybody says. That's just not right. You do not have to follow it verbatim. I've never, ever once have I suggested that they should write something exactly like the comic book, right? I mean, granted, I also have said that if they did, it wouldn't matter. Definitely, if these movies are to appeal to normies, this is going to be a completely new story to them anyway. If they wrote a story that was exactly like a comic book arc, it would not matter, because no.
Let me explain something to you. He talks about normies. Who are normies? Non-comic book fans. The mainstream audience who come in and watch comic book movies because it's fashionable, because it's hip. Just like everyone used to come in and watch Arnie and Stallone in the 80s, right? Because that was the fashionable thing to do, right? That's what he means by normies. But let me tell you something, young Ripper, right? Business is business. They need the normies. They need them. The truth of the matter is, they need the comic book fans as much as the normies. They need a coming together. Now, the reason that Justice League didn't do well is because that film pleased no one. Because it was a Frankenstein's monster. They made a terrible decision in what they did. And from that monster came the decision to have the DCEU still in place, but to have this black label where you can get your clay and mould it however you want. That's originality. That's creative. That's beautiful. And their first effort is absolute genius, right? We could be talking about Oscars, Venice Film Festival, the Toronto Film Festival. This is nuts. It's that good. And if it's that good, and at least it does the character of the Joker proud, and it gives him a fucking fantastic journey. So when you see him become the Joker, you think, this is the best version of the Joker. That is not disrespectful. That is the way film should work.